Hi, my name is Deb Weiss-Gelmi, and today we're doing a bedtime sequence that includes 5 poses. So some of these poses can be done with or without props, so I will show you both of them. And then eventually, after you do the video a few times, you will be able to do this sequence on your own before you go to bed. And so you will get to choose which versions you like best for you. So if you end up using props today, some of the props you might need are a couple blocks, some blankets, 3 to 5 blankets, or towels, and quite possibly a bolster. Our first pose is Adho Mukha Virasana, downward facing hero's pose. So without props, it looks like this. I join my big toe mounds together. My thighs are moving from the inside out, and my legs are just far enough to get my ribs through as I lengthen through and rest my head on the floor. Okay. And if that doesn't work, you can put blankets between your calf muscles and your buttocks. So you could do 2, 3, depends on how much you need. And then if your head doesn't touch the floor, you want support under your head. So that could be a blanket or towel, or it could be a block. So from here, then I lengthen forward with my hands. And then if I needed a block under my head, it would be like this. So you decide which version you would like to start with. And I'll do it with you without the props. But if you're using the props, great. So my big toe mounds together, lift and lengthen, extend my torso forward, and rest the head on the floor. Press your pointer finger mound into the floor and lift your forearms up off the floor. Allow the outer shoulders to go toward the floor and spread the upper back. Adho Mukha Virasana. Now you might need a support just under your head and not under your buttocks, or vice versa. So just take care of yourself and what you need. This is a bit of a forward bend, and forward bends typically are calming on the nervous system, which is perfect for getting you ready for bed. The resting of the head further supports that relaxation. Try to soften your face and just start to get into a mindset of heading to bed. We are muscularly using our arms, but that's okay. Soften the face. Continue to release tension and facial expressions on your face. And then to come out, walk your hands. Our next pose is Supta Sukhasana, which means reclined comfort pose or happy pose. So this is one where the legs are just in a simple cross leg. So there are 2 versions. One is using support, and one is no support. So I'll show you each of them, and then we'll do them together. So for this one, I sit in front of the blankets. I bring my right leg in first and then my left. And then I lift and lengthen up over the blankets and allow for support along my back. And then I either use a block for my pillow, or I could use a pillow for a pillow, or I could roll the blanket under my head. Okay, so this is the first version. And then we would switch legs in there, or we will switch legs in there. And then the second version is without support. So then I sit with my legs crossed, lie back, flow the shoulders toward the hands, and so it looks like this. Okay, then to come out of this one, we roll to the side and sit up. So now you decide which one you want to do. If you want the blanket, set that up. Otherwise, we'll do this together. So we'll do it together, and first bring your right leg in and then your left. If you're in front of the blankets, have a little bit of space between the blankets. And for both of them, we'll go to lie back, put the elbows onto the floor, and lie down on the back. Flow the shoulders toward the hands. If your back feels short or a little bit of tension, lift up and take the flesh of your buttocks away from the low back. And then soften your inner thighs to your inner knees. Flow the shoulders toward the hands. Lengthen the back of the skull away from your shoulders. And then soften your face. So if you're on the blankets, you'll want to have a pillow under your head as well. You want to make sure that your chin is not higher than your forehead. For some of you lying on your back, if your chin is higher than your forehead, then you could put a pillow under your head as well. For those of you lying flat on your back, if your chin is higher than your forehead, you could raise your head with a pillow as well. So as we prepare for bed, again, we want to start to let go or continue to let go of the expressions on our face. Let go of the muscles. Soften the throat and neck. Flow the shoulders to the hands. And then we'll switch the cross of the legs. This is a pose you can actually do while you're in bed, either before you go to sleep or when you wake up. So we're on our second side. We've switched our legs, and now relax your inner thighs to your inner knees. Flow your shoulders towards your hands, back of the skull away from the shoulders, very gently, and soften the muscles on the face. Soften the muscles around your eyes and your cheeks and your jaw. Flow your shoulders down to your half-open hands. Supta Sukhasana, reclined comfort pose. So now to come out, you'll take your knees toward the ceiling, put your foot on the floor, and roll to your side, and come out. Push yourself up. Our next pose is Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. I'm going to show you two different versions, one with support of blankets and one with no support. So first, you'll take your blankets as you had them folded for another pose, and we'll stack them up in the middle of the mat. But this time, we need enough space at the top of your mat for your head and shoulders. So you'll pull the mat so you've got space up here. And then you'll need something under your feet. So I like to use the bolster for my feet, or you could also use blocks or something so you can have your feet hip distance apart. And so first watch this version. So I sit at the edge of my blankets, I lean back on my hands, I lift and lengthen my low back by taking my buttocks away. And then I allow the blanket to take my trapezius muscles away from my neck as I take my shoulders to the floor. And then once my shoulders are fully on the floor and the back of my head is gently resting on the floor, I flow my shoulders toward my hands, I lift a foot up at a time, and I lengthen my inner heel and my big toe mound away. Now another thing you could do is put a strap around your thighs to lessen the work you need to do with your legs. So this is one version. To come out, I put my feet on the floor, roll to the side, and then push myself up. So the second version is no support, and it's also called Chatushpadasana. So I lie down on my back, and even though there's no support here, I'm still going to the tops of my shoulders. So I lift up my buttocks, flow my shoulders toward my hands, lift that buttocks up. So now we're getting a similar effect on the nervous system by having my shoulders on the floor, just as in the last pose, the back of my skull on the floor, my chest is coming toward my chin, my buttocks are lifting up. Okay, so you decide between these two which one you'd like to do. Okay, so if you're going to use the blankets, set up the blankets, and if you're going to do that version, you can do that version. It's nice to be able to have the option of doing this with no props, because then wherever you are, if you're in a hotel room or anywhere, you can take these 5 poses and do them without props. So I sit on the blankets, put my hands back, lift and lengthen my low back away by taking my buttocks that way. And then I lie my back down on the blankets, and I slide over the edge of the blankets like a waterfall as the blankets take my trapezius muscle, the muscles around the neck, toward my buttock. So I get solid on my shoulders. You want to be solid on the back of your head. So no space between your shoulders and the floor. And then soften your face. Flow the shoulders toward the hands. And then you can lift up your feet and put your feet on your height. So extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. The inner thighs gently turn very slightly toward the floor, being sure that we have our feet pointed up toward the ceiling. But extend through the inner heel, big toe mound, and bring that little toe side back toward those outer hips. Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, building a bridge pose. So it's nice to be able to notice where you can let go and where you need to work. So my legs are active, but my abdomen is soft. My face is soft. Notice if your shoulders have lightened up too much, if you've lost some of the weight on your shoulders. And if that happens, bend your legs, put your feet on the floor. Press with your heels away to get greater contact with the shoulders and the floor. Flow the shoulders toward the hands, and then return your feet. If you're doing the version without support, then you might have already come in 2 or 3 times. Either way, soften your face. That first version I showed you, you could also put a block under your tailbone, which would support you for being there a little bit longer. And then to come out, bend your legs, put your feet on the floor, roll to your side, and push yourself up. Our next pose is Viparita Karani, which means inverted lake pose. It's a pose where we have our legs up the wall, and sometimes we have support under us for the pose, but you can also do it without. So again, if you are in a hotel, you can do this entire sequence without props. But if you have props and you want to use them, it'll look like this. So watch this first. I sit at the edge of my blankets and I take my shoulder to the floor. But I want to keep my buttocks at the wall so I don't move too far away from the wall. So I take my shoulder that's closest to the blankets to the floor, and I try to keep my shoulder tight into the blankets and tight into where my knee is here. So right in this space. So I lean down, my buttocks stay at the wall, my shoulder comes down, and then I roll up. And then from here you can lift up and move the blankets a little bit because you want a curvature over the blankets. So your buttocks are more toward the wall, and you really want to be able to soften the abdomen. And then extend through the inner heel, big toe mound, flow the shoulders toward the hands, and let go. So this is one version. The version with no props you would get in without the blankets. You would just scoot down or be down on the floor, scoot your buttocks right up to the wall, and then lie down and take the legs up the wall. So this one isn't an inversion, so it's not quite as calming on the nervous system, but it's definitely helpful. So from here, you could lift up and put a block under your hips as well. So come out, I bend my legs, roll to the side, and come up. So you decide which version you would like to do. So if we're doing the blankets, what's nice about these blankets or towels that you have folded for this sequence is we're using them repeatedly. So that's helpful for smoothness of setting up the props. So if you're doing this one with me, know that when you try it, sometimes it's hard to get in the first time. So you might have to do it a couple times. But I sit on the edge of the blankets with my buttocks at the wall. I take my shoulder down close to the blankets and close to my knee. My knee will go out, but that placement. So I take the shoulder down, roll the legs up. And then the name Viparita Karani means inverted lake pose. And when you get the blankets just right, then you can feel your abdomen become like a lake, still and calm, like a bowl or a lake of water. And the legs are still working, extending through the inner heel, big toe mound. But the abdomen is soft. And then flow the shoulders toward the hands, soften the face. Viparita Karani. So if you have the blankets or blocks under your hips, then it helps with the inversion part, which can contribute to a calming effect on the nervous system in this pose. And then to come out, if you're on blocks, put your feet on the wall, lift your buttocks up and take the blocks out. But otherwise, just bring the knees toward the chest and roll to your side. And for a moment, pause with your body on one plane or one level. And then we're going to move into Shavasana. So you can do Shavasana either on a mat or you can lie right down on your floor. You can take some support for your head if you'd like. Otherwise, just lie down flat. The main thing is you don't want props in your way for letting go. So move any props away that are in your way. Because as you start to let go in Shavasana, you don't want to have props interrupting you. So from your back, or lie down on your back, flow the shoulders toward the hands. And your knees bent to start. Lift up for a moment, take the flesh of your buttocks away from the low back, and that just lengthens the low back. Then take your legs out together to start, and then allow the legs to splay to the side. Soften your abdomen, broaden across the chest, flow the shoulders toward the hands, and we'll begin to let go more and more, getting ourselves ready for bed. So soften the muscles on your face, soften the muscles around your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw. Soften your throat and your neck. Flow your hands down to your half-open hands. Soften your chest and your abdomen. Soften your hips all the way down to your feet. From the top of your head all the way down to your feet, completely let go. To begin to come out, bend your arms one at a time. Put your hands onto your front body. Bend your left leg, put your foot on the floor. Draw your right arm up and over your head. And then use the muscle of your left leg to roll yourself to the right. Do your best to not shift your hips, but just roll to your side using the least amount of effort. And then you can join your knees together for comfort. Use the top arm to help push yourself up and the bottom arm up into a seated position or climb right into bed. Namaste.